The top stories tonight in Y News. Mass vaccination efforts against COVID-19 are underway around the world.
President Rodrigo Duterte eagerly awaits to receive the COVID-19 vaccine that will be approved by the country's Food and Drug Administration.
Malacan blames the opposition and critics on rumors about a national holiday lockdown. An impeachment complaint against Supreme Court Associate Justice Leonen was filed before the House of Representatives.
UNTV exclusive, the Philippine National Police forms a board of inquiry on the attack in Datu Piang, Maguindanao.
And Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian suspended the business permit of the company operating the North Luzon Expressway. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, December 7, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Moscow has started vaccinating workers at high risk of becoming infected with the coronavirus at newly opened clinics across the city. Britain, meanwhile, is preparing to become the first country to roll out the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine this week. Jovic Burmas reports.
Moscow began rolling out the country's homegrown coronavirus vaccine to doctors, teachers, and social workers on Saturday, as the virus in the world's fourth worst-hit country continues to spread at a record pace. Russian officials are planning to expand the vaccination campaign nationwide next week in what is expected to be a limited-scale rollout after manufacturers encountered challenges in ramping up production. Russia approved the shot named Sputnik V in August, despite criticism from Western scientists about the lack of large-scale clinical trial data at the time. In the United Kingdom, the first batch of the vaccine created by Pfizer and the German company BioNTech arrived in the UK last week. Doses are scheduled to be delivered to hospitals beginning Monday. Nursing home residents, healthcare workers, and people aged 80 and over will be first in line. UK's approval of Pfizer vaccine should give people hope, vaccine expert says. Across England, 50 hospitals have been chosen as hubs to administer the vaccine, the BBC reported. The government has initially ordered 40 million doses, which will vaccinate 20 million people. The National Health Service has said that more hubs will be set up as more doses arrive. The doses will be frozen at minus 70 degrees Celsius or minus 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Health officials are still working out how to efficiently split apart the boxes of vaccine vials once they arrive. Meanwhile, with high levels of vaccine skepticism worrying public health experts, The Times and Mail on Sunday newspapers reported that Queen Elizabeth, 94, and her husband Prince Philip, 99, would let it be known when they had received the shot. And in the USA, with the coronavirus pandemic surging and initial vaccine supplies limited, the United States has a tough decision to make. Should the country's immunization program focus in the early months on the elderly and people with serious medical conditions who are dying of the virus at the highest rates, or on essential workers, an expansive category encompassing Americans who have borne the greatest risk of infection? Healthcare workers and the frailest of the elderly, residents of long-term care facilities, will almost certainly get the first shots under guidelines that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued on Thursday. But with vaccinations expected to start this month, the debate among federal and state health officials about who goes next and lobbying from outside groups to be included is growing more urgent. Coronavirus is continuing its spread across the world with more than 67 million confirmed cases in 191 countries and about 1.5 million deaths. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the United States has reported an additional 1 million new coronavirus cases in just 5 days. Iya De Vera details us why live. Yes, Iya?
Harleen, the United States once again hit another COVID-19 record high. According to Johns Hopkins University data, 1,882,000 new confirmed coronavirus cases has been reported from December 1 to December 5 in the United States, bringing the total to more than 14.6 million confirmed cases. Since the first cases of COVID-19 in the country on January, it took 3 months to reach 1 million confirmed cases. But just last week, the United States averaged 190,948 new cases, another record high according to data. As of Sunday, more than 101,487 COVID-19 patients are now admitted to hospitals according to COVID Tracking Project, and more than 280,000 deaths from the virus. Experts and health workers fear the outcome of Thanksgiving gatherings and travels, and most likely the impact is going to get worse. In California, around 33 million residents is now under stay-at-home order to prevent the surge in hospitalizations. New restrictions will take effect to Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. Under the restriction, only essential businesses are open, while businesses like bars, hair salon, movie theaters, and indoor recreational facilities are forced to close. Retail businesses can continue to operate at 20% capacity, and restaurants will be limited to deliveries and takeouts. Same restriction has been ordered to Northern California counties. Daily activities of more than 5.8 million residents in counties of Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, Santa Clara, San Francisco, and the city of Berkeley will be affected. Harleen?
Thank you, Iya De Vera, reporting live from New Zealand.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte is eager to take the coronavirus vaccine in the country once it is approved for domestic use by the country's Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. Rosa Licos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants to be a good role model for the Filipinos. That is why the president agreed to be one of the first to get the shots of the vaccine against coronavirus disease 2019. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque believes this is the most effective way to tell the public that the vaccine have undergone a stringent process before being approved in the country.
Gusto niyang talagang turukan na siya nang mapakita nga po sa buong bayan na ligtas at epektibo. Ito po'y dumaan sa expert panel group ng pinakadalubhasang Pilipino at yan po ay comes with their highest endorsement na ligtas at epektibo.
Meanwhile, the palace says that if some cabinet members also wants to be vaccinated first, it is their personal decision to also set an example for the public. The Duterte administration is ready to be criticized by the opposition on this issue.
Tandaan ninyo, pag nangyari yan, yung oposisyon sasabihin na naman merong VIP treatment.
The palace enumerated those who are in the priority list of the government's vaccination program in areas with COVID-19 outbreak such as Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, and Metro Davao. Among those in the priorities are the frontline health workers, senior citizens, indigent residents, and uniformed personnel like policemen, soldiers, and others. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III has accepted the challenge to be the first person in the country to be inoculated with a vaccine against coronavirus disease 2019. The Health Department assures the public that the vaccine that will be approved is safe for use. Aiko Miguel explains why.
By all all means, I am going to have myself vaccinated, and I invite all the members of the IATF to join me to be vaccinated. Why not? For as long as the two things are satisfied.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III courageously accepted the challenge made by Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo to be the first to try the COVID-19 vaccine before it is administered to others. According to Secretary Duque, once it is approved on the scientific evaluation of the Department of Science and Technology Vaccine Expert Panel, Ethics Board Review, and Food and Drug Administration, Secretary Duque is ready to get vaccinated with it. The health chief also encourages IATF Cabinet Secretaries to accept the vaccine challenge. DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere assures that whichever COVID-19 vaccine be approved in the country, it is thoroughly examined.
So wala po tayong dapat ikabahala para dito sa bakuna na ito. Yun pong bakuna na yan, na-test na safe siya at saka meron efficacy niya ay ayon dun sa mga targeted na kailangan ng isang bakuna. So ang Secretary of Health po natin at ang buong Department of Health, if I may say, ay bukas po tayo. At talagang kung kailangan tayo po ay mauuna sa pagbabakuna, ay magpapabakuna po tayo.
The Department of Health is also preparing measures to prevent the false informations against the COVID-19. Meanwhile, the DOH says health protocols will still be implemented even if there will be COVID-19 vaccines available in the country. This includes the responsible wearing of face masks, face shield, and observing physical distancing. The DOH also adds no one has an immunity passport against COVID-19, even those who had been infected with it. Based on the DOH's update, the Ethics Board Review has already approved potential vaccines of Janssen, Clover Biopharm, and of AstraZeneca. They are just waiting for the parallel evaluation of the vaccine expert panel before the Food and Drug Administration can approve for the conduct of the clinical trial in the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health registered 1,574 new COVID-19 cases today, pushing the country's total to 441,399. 80 patients recovered, bringing the nationwide recovery count to 408,702. 18 new fatalities were reported, taking the death toll to 8,572. Davao City had the most number of new cases with 187, followed by Rizal with 96, Pampanga with 80, Quezon City with 69, and Pasig City with 59. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere bared that an average of 10 to 12 laboratories have failed to submit COVID-19 data to the department system. Most of these laboratories, however, are newly established. Vergere said, noting that they are still under the process of fixing and integrating their system to the DOH.
Authorities urge the public not to peddle false information as the Philippines is battling a public health crisis. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque described the reports of a supposed nationwide lockdown during the holiday season fake news. Based on reports, some people have received text messages on alleged nationwide lockdown from December 23 to January 3, 2021. But the administration blames this on the enemies of the government.
Ngunit ang mga kritiko at detractors sa administrasyon ay patuloy sa pagkakalat ng peking balita para sirain ang Pasko ng mga Pilipino.
The government urged the public to know the truth through trusted news organizations and do not spread unverified information, especially during the holiday season. President Rodrigo Duterte has announced the quarantine restrictions to be implemented for the whole month of December, in which major parts of the country will be under the least strict community quarantine or modified general community quarantine. While Metro Manila, Davao City, Batangas, Iloilo City, Tacloban City, Lanao del Sur, Iligan City, and Davao del Norte are under general community quarantine. The government will announce a new round of community quarantine throughout the country in January 2021. Meanwhile, the palace reiterates its appeal to the public to avoid large gatherings and strictly observe the minimum health standards. This is to prevent certain areas or communities to be placed under localized or granular lockdown or strict stay-at-home order.
Alam naman natin na unti-unting binubuksan ng ating ekonomiya at sa pagbubukas na ito, kinakailangan balansehin ang kaligtasan ng mamamayan at economic health.
Experts raise concern that there will be a surge of COVID-19 cases in early 2021 if people will not abide by the health protocols during the holiday season. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The health department, meanwhile, sees no reason to implement a strict lockdown in the country during the holiday season. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, if the public could only observe the implemented health protocols, COVID-19 cases in the country will not surge. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The country's quarantine status is enough to ensure the public's safety against COVID-19. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, the government does not lack on reminding the public on how to guard their health.
Hindi po tama yan sapagkat ang public pronouncement ni Pangulong Duterte ay napakamalinaw that we will maintain the general community quarantine status for December 1 to 31. So yan po ang ating paniwalaan.
Last week, the DOH even stated that once COVID-19 cases surge to 500,000 this holiday season, then it is possible that the country may go back to a stricter quarantine status. But if the country will continuously have a decline in COVID-19 cases, then the government might decide to place the country to modified general community quarantine or NGCQ. The DOH once again reminds the public this holiday season that whatever they plan to do, they should still observe health protocols.
Nandito pa rin po ang virus at ito po ay delikado pa rin para sa ating mga kababayan. So sana po atin pong ugaliin na isipin natin lagi yung ating ligtas na pamamaraan para mag-celebrate. Let us think if it is scary or scary. Kapag scary, pwede naman po mababa lang ring ang risk ng transmission ng sakit. Pero pag scary, wag na po natin ituloy. Let's just have alternative modes or mechanisms.
Authorities remind the public to only listen to trusted news information and announcements from the government and agencies on announced quarantine restrictions and health protocols in the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, created a board of inquiry following the attack on a police station and military detachment in Datu Piang town in Maguindanao. Meanwhile, police authorities are looking at 3 possible motives behind the said attack. Leia Ilagan tells us why, exclusive.
The Philippine National Police wants an in-depth investigation on the attack of Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters members in Datu Piang, Maguindanao last Thursday. With this, the police organization formed a board of inquiry to handle the investigation. It will be headed by Police Major General Marnie Marcos from the Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management, or DIDM, as chairman. Police Brigadier General Edin Ogale from the PNP Peace Process and Development Center as the Vice Chairman. Members will be from the Directorate for Intelligence, Directorate for Operations, Directorate for Integrated Police Operations Western Mindanao, and Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, will be the Secretariat. The PNP also formed an operational team audit to help the BOI. Police Colonel Franco Simboro from the Directorate for Operations will be the team leader. Police Colonel Marlo Martinez from the DIDM will be the assistant team leader. Their members will be from the Directorate for Intelligence, Police Regional Office Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, Crime Laboratory, Directorate for Police Community Relations, Legal Service and Intelligence Group. The BOI investigation will be focusing on the possible operational and tactical lapses in the PNP operational procedures and the existing policies, to identify the gaps and areas that need improvements to prevent similar incident from happening in the future. Last Thursday, 50 members of BIFF, headed by Salahuddin Hassan, alias Sala, and Muhyiddin Animbang Indong, alias Commander Karyalan, struck in Datu Piang and burned the police car in the area as they fled. No casualties were recorded. The PNP is looking at the three possible motives behind the attack. One is political rivalry between the mayor and vice mayor of Datu Piang. Second is vengeance for the death of BIFF member Abu Safian in a police operation in Cotabato City last December 1. And third is a personal grudge of some BIFF members against the chief of police of Datu Piang for the recent arrest of two members on drugs and firearms charges. The PNP is also preparing complaints against BIFF leaders and members for attempted murder, arson, indiscriminate firing, damage to property and grave threat and intimidation. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The government is set to discuss issues surrounding the anti-terrorism law during a 3-day human rights summit that is being held this week. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Department of Justice, or DOJ, has started a 3-day human rights summit at the Philippine International Convention Center in Pasay City. The program is part of the technical cooperation between the United Nations and the Philippine government. On the opening ceremony, Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara has mentioned the 2017 infamous Marawi siege, which affected the peace situation in Mindanao and resulted to violations of human rights. Guevara stresses that recognizing the rights and freedom of people is necessary requirement for real peace.
True peace demands more than mere security. True peace requires that the rights and liberties of our people are recognized by law and guaranteed by the institutions through which they are enforced.
Guevara adds, human rights guarantees under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 will be discussed during the summit. Some 37 petitions were filed against the law due to possible human rights violations. Meanwhile, in his message, President Rodrigo Duterte says he is proud that the Philippines is one of the countries that signed some world human rights treaties.
This affirms our serious commitment in honoring and fulfilling our treaty obligations and prioritizing the human rights agenda as a means to achieve our country's sustainable development goals.
Representative from the United Nations joins the summit together with officials from the Commission on Human Rights, DILG, DOLE, PNP, AFP, among others. The United Nations also praises the government's rescue and relief efforts during the onslaught of the recent typhoons.
It was a remarkable example of commitment and coordination. We must address human rights with the same determination, partnerships, and resilience.
The UN has promised to cooperate with the Philippine government in upholding and promoting human rights. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Pump prices of petroleum products will be adjusted again this week, as announced by oil company. In separate advisories, Pilipinas Shell Petroleum Corp and Sea Oil Philippines Incorporated said they will hike the prices per liter of gasoline by 25 centavos, diesel by 40 centavos, and kerosene by 60 centavos. Petrogas and Clean Fuel also said they will implement the same price adjustments except for kerosene, which they do not carry. The oil price hike will take effect Tuesday, December 8th. Other oil firms have yet to announce price adjustments for the week. This is the 5th straight week that the price of diesel and kerosene will be hiked, and second for gasoline.
Meanwhile, a lesser crowd was seen today along Elias Street in Binondo. However, despite light rain, some shoppers went to Divisoria to do holiday shopping. Barangay patrols and the members of the Manila Police District were manning the area to enforce physical distancing, wearing of face masks and face shields. Tarpaulins with reminders and public service announcements were placed in the area, while entrance and exit lanes were also identified.
Nagpakalat po kami ng mga tanod namin sa iba't ibang lugar dito sa Divisoria. Tapos, salamat po. Naglagay na po kami ng lubid dyan para maiwasan po ang salubungan ng mga tao.
According to Joint Task Force COVID Shield Commander Lieutenant General Cesar Binag, over 200 policemen were deployed in the area to ensure that safety protocols are observed. These police members, according to Binag, will carry issued equipment such as rattan sticks to be used as measuring device in implementing physical distancing among shoppers. However, this could also be used as a protection of police members against aggressive violators in extreme situations. He noted that since March, the police have already filed 2,000 direct assault cases against violators. That is why Binag is appealing to the public to cooperate with the authorities and be responsible by strictly following minimum health standards.
Kita pa lang natin, bukod doon sa mga megaphone, yung paalala na tayo na, physical distancing. At syempre, pinraining kami dyan para pang-aresto yan. Pag pang-aresto na yan, posible nang kung ano man yung pamamaraan doon na mangyari para ma-aresto natin yung nagbabalike, lalong-lalo na yung mga nag-assault sa mga personal authority.
Meanwhile, several officials also inspected the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange today, carrying a wooden meter stick. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, Transport Secretary Arthur Tugade, and Parañaque City Mayor Edwin Olivares went rounds to check if minimum health standards are being observed. There were also police marshals inside the terminal to enforce safety protocols.
So sumunod lang po tayo, lalo na sa panahon ng Pasko at sa pagsalubong ng bagong taon. Huwag po natin baliwalain ang lahat po ng mga panuntunan, ang lahat po ng mga abisong pangkalusugan laban po sa COVID-19.
Meanwhile, according to presidential spokesman Harry Roque, yantok or rattan stick may be used to measure safe distance between people but not as a weapon to hit them. Joint Task Force COVID-19 Shield Chief Lieutenant General Cesar Binag recently disclosed that law enforcers would use rattan sticks to enforce the 1-meter distancing rule in public. The Commission on Human Rights has cautioned against the unnecessary use of yank against violators of health protocols.
Hindi po pwede gamitin yan na pang-hit o pampalo dahil hindi naman po yan na pinapayagan sa ating batas at ang regulasyon ng PNP. No? Pwede po siguro po to measure social distancing, to make sure 1 meter, pero hindi po yan para ano tawag doon? Pangpalo, no? ng mga taong bayan.
The Senate has passed on third and final reading a bill that will give direct cash assistance to farmers. Under the Senate Bill number 1927, or the Cash Assistance for Filipino Farmers Act of 2020, aims to use the annual rice tariff collections in excess of 10 billion pesos that will be used for the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Funds. The excess funds will be given to farmers owning 1 hectare or less of rice land until 2024. The Bureau of Customs and the Department of Agriculture are mandated to submit reports to Congress at year-end through the Committee on Agriculture on the disbursement of funds.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
An impeachment complaint was filed against Supreme Court Associate Justice Marvic Leonen at the House of Representatives for culpable violation of the Constitution and betrayal of public trust. Justice Leonen, meanwhile, expressed confidence that members of the House of Representatives will do the right thing on the impeachment complaint filed against him. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
A private citizen named Edwin Cordevilla wants Supreme Court Associate Justice Marvic Leonen to be impeached. The filing of the complainant in the House of Representatives this morning was facilitated by attorney Larry Gadon, who also the one filed the impeachment complaint against former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Gadon notes two grounds for impeachment against the magistrate. First is the culpable violation of the Constitution, allegedly due to the undecided cases in the Leonen's office. This is aside from the cases filed before the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal.
Napakaliwanag ng kanyang mga violations. Yun lang hindi niya pag-issue na decisions of 37 aging cases. Imagine that. Siya nga yung number one na justice na napakaraming delayed cases. In fact, he has a total of 82 undecided cases which are already submitted for resolution.
Another ground is the betrayal of public trust, allegedly for not submitting statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth or SALN. The complaint was endorsed by Ilocos Norte 2nd District Representative Angelo Barba.
As a constituent in my district, I entertained him, I read his complaint, and I believed in it. That's why I'm here as his congressman.
Justice Leonen have yet to receive a copy of complaints, but the justice hopes that House leaders will do the right thing and will not be persuaded by false issues raised by someone who clearly has a personal or vindictive reasons. Justice Leonen was appointed by former President Benigno Aquino III in 2012. He was a former dean of the UP College of Law from 2008 to 2011. He became the chief peace negotiator of the government Tomorrow Islamic Liberation Front or MILF from 2010 to 2012. His term as magistrate is supposed to end in year 2032 upon retirement in the age of 70. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
From an impeachment complaint filed against Supreme Court Associate Justice Marvic Leonen before the House of Representatives. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said President Rodrigo Duterte is not involved in the move and did not endorse the complaint.
Ay, hindi ko po alam kung kaninong project yan, no? Sa House po yan, no? Wala pong kinalaman dyan, no? We don't even know who the proponents are.
In other news, Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian has served the suspension of city business permit of Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation, the operator of the North Luzon Expressway Toll Plaza. Joe Anano tells us why live. Yes, Joanne, good evening.
Yes, good evening, William. At past 5 o'clock earlier this afternoon, Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian has served a suspension order against NLEX Corporation's business permit covering toll plazas operating within the city's jurisdiction. And upon serving the suspension order, NLEX Corporation has to stop their toll collection within Mindanao and Karuhatan toll plazas. This after NLEX Corporation failed to comply with Mayor Gatchalian's demand to submit their action plan on how to resolve the traffic problem brought to their city because of the implementation of RFID scheme. The local chief executive thumbs down NLEX Corporation appeal to give them 15-day extension for them to come up with their action plan. He insists that the intense traffic in their city brought to their people. So much income loss and even other truckers traversing the expressway. Mayor Gatchalian argues that asking for a public apology is not enough and that people who are paying for the toll should be given the right service that they deserve from NLEX.
Araw-araw, hundreds and hundreds or thousands ang inoobliga magkabit ng RFID stickers. Tapos kukunin natin nila yung pera ng tao kasi prepaid yun eh. Tapos walang kapalit na serbisyo. Doon nagagalit yung taong bayan eh. You're charging me ahead of time but I cannot use your service properly. In fact, napeperwisyo at nakukonsumisyon pa ako sa serbisyo mo. I don't think the public is okay with just the sorry. Saan ka nakakita? Kinuha na yung pera mo, wala pang serbisyo, na aburido ka pa. Palyado, palpak, bulok ang kanilang RFID system.
On the other hand, Will NLEX Corporation admitted that there are technical glitches within their RFID system and vows to resolve the problem at the soonest possible time.
We actually acknowledge na meron yung mga technical problems in the implementation of the D100, no? We intend to address these technical problems as soon as possible. Gusto namin humingi ng pag-unawa sa mga taga-Valenzuela nang medyo na nag-experience po ng pagsisikip ng trapiko, especially along MacArthur Highway, Karawatan, and doon po sa Mindanao Avenue, Toll Plaza.
Well, according to Mayor Gatchalian, the suspension has no definite timeline and this will remain in effect as NLEX Corporation are yet to come up with a concrete plan on how to resolve the traffic problem in Valenzuela City because of the RFID system. Will?
Thank you, Joanne Nano, reporting live. And for the news abroad, here's Elsie Marcos reporting live from New Zealand.
Good evening, William. For the first time in 6 months, more than 200 passengers from international flights will be landing today in Victoria, putting the state's reset hotel quarantine program to the test. Mavian Dog will tell us why, live. Maeve?
LC, around 253 passengers across 8 flights will be touching down throughout the day in Melbourne, first of which will be coming from Sri Lankan capital Colombo, followed by flights from Tokyo, Singapore, Auckland, Hong Kong, Manila, and Doha. Upon touchdown, international passengers do not enter the Melbourne airport but are instead escorted straight into Victoria's hotel quarantine system, a revamped program overseen by a dedicated agency called COVID-19 Quarantine Victoria. With the number of passengers arriving into Melbourne estimated to be 160 per day, Police and Emergency Services Minister Lisa Neville said the chances of a quarantine hotel breach are very low, and exemptions would only be granted in extreme cases.
You can't say 100% that you're not going to get an infection out of this. These are people who are coming back from countries that have infections, but what we've got is robust systems in the hotels with the staff to minimise the risk, and then a strong and revamped contact tracing system that will immediately get into action.
Infection controls and daily testing of staff will be implemented in the 11 hotels within the Melbourne Airport Precinct and CBD that will be taking in guests, as well as a centralized contact tracing team and strengthened PPE protocols. While Minister Neville would cop the blame for any quarantine breaches as the responsible minister overseeing the scheme, she assured that risk assessments are done at every step and systems are put in place to manage the risks. Elsie?
Maeve, part going through the state's quarantine system is that the guests are checking into Melbourne's hotels. Does this mean that the arriving guests are expected to pay for their hotel quarantine stay?
Elsie, the guests arriving today are not yet required to pay for their 14-day quarantine period. However, Victoria's state government will introduce the new legislation tomorrow, which is about the quarantine contribution fee for the returned travelers. The fee will be $3,000 Australian dollars per adult, $1,000 for each additional adult, and $500 for children aged 3 to 18. Minister Neville also said that hardship considerations, including fee waivers, reduction deductions and payment plan options will be available for the travelers. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Mavian Dog, reporting live from Australia. South Korea will impose heightened social distancing rules for the capital Seoul and surrounding areas as authorities struggle to contain the nation's largest wave of coronavirus infection in 9 months. The government announced that the level 2.5 distancing, the second highest in the country's 5-tier COVID-19 alert system, will be applied to the nation's capital area, which covers Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi province for the next 3 weeks. Health Ministry official Park Myung-ho said that gatherings of more than 50 will be banned in the capital Seoul and surrounding areas from Tuesday, while gyms and karaoke bars will be closed. Religious services must be held online or by broadcast, and stricter attendance limits will be placed on the school classes. Restaurants will still be allowed to provide in-person service, but the government is urging people to avoid eating out if possible and not hold non-essential social gatherings. The enhancement came as South Korea has been struggling with more than 500 daily new COVID-19 cases in recent days amid the third wave of the pandemic. The state of California officially handed its 55 electoral votes to Democrat Joe Biden after its certified results officially trusting Biden's electoral votes to more than 270. Sonny Cos explains why.
Joe Biden now officially has more than 270 electoral college votes he needs to claim the presidency after California certified its election results on Friday evening. Although it's been apparent for weeks that Biden won the presidential election, California certification is a legal milestone for President-elect Biden to receive more than 270 electors as he stepped towards the White House this January 20. Result certification are often considered formalities in the last election cycles, but the often ignored mechanics of electing a U.S. president was highlighted this time because of President Donald Trump's continued claims of widespread fraud and legal action against the election results that almost all state courts, often with Republican-appointed judges, says has no credible evidences. These legal challenges were mainly in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where more than 30 lawsuits has been rejected or dropped. Courts in Nevada and Minnesota brought Trump 2 more losses on Friday, dismissing lawsuits seeking to decertify Biden's victories in those states. The states of Colorado, Hawaii, and New Jersey, which Biden won, will certify their results this coming days, which will bring Biden to have 306 electoral college votes to Trump's 232, while Biden now enjoys more than 7 million lead in the popular votes. The electors will meet in their states on December 14 to cast their votes, which Congress will tally on a joint session on January 6, while the new president will be inaugurated on January 20. Sonicos, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Sun-watching satellites have spotted the biggest solar flare in more than 3 years, which narrowly missed Earth. But more eruptions are on their way, a sign that the sun is waking up. Marvy Delphine will give us the details live. Yes, Marvy?
Elsie, the sun unleashed its most powerful solar eruption since 2017 on Sunday, as astronomers have discovered a series of enormous new sunspots on the side of the sun facing Earth, ahead of a period of what is expected as we enter the active phase of the next solar cycle. The solar flare, which is a sudden bright explosion of electromagnetic energy measured as an M4.4 on the scale astronomers use for sunstorms. M-class flares are medium-sized eruptions compared to background-level A-class flares to small C-class flares and major X-class flares, and rank on a scale from 1 to 9, with larger numbers representing greater intensity. The M4.4 flare's bright burst was accompanied by a coronal mass ejection, or CME, which is a large release of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun's corona, or its outermost layer. Astronomer Tony Phillips detailed some of the technological effects of these flares, which send out a massive burst of electromagnetic radiation that is capable of causing radio blackouts, sometimes across the entire planet in the case of powerful X-class flares. M-class flares, like the one seen on Sunday, typically triggers only minor consequences and created only limited disruptions on Earth. Although the flare appeared as an M-class from Earth, it may actually have been a stronger flare, since the event took place partially behind the sun. And so many specialists have cautioned that our digital society and reliance on satellite-based communications is particularly vulnerable to a powerful solar storm that could come at just about any time. Elsie?
Thank you, Marvy, for that report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie Marcos, reporting live from New Zealand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, December 7, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. Evangelio Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.